This video is about cross-cradle position. Cross-cradle comes into a group of what I would call parent-led positions. They're the positions where you are in charge of finding the best position, choosing the right moment to latch, optimizing that latch, and deciding if any adjustments need to be made. It's very much led by you, as opposed to the baby-led positioning, which is using baby's innate skills to do the latching, and I'll cover those in a different video. I'll be really honest, cross-cradle is not my favourite position, mainly because in my experience it's extremely hard to find a way to make it both comfortable for you and effective for both you and the baby, making sure that that breast is draining well and that the baby can transfer the milk easily. If you're struggling with the cross-cradle, I would encourage you to have a look at some other positions, particularly looking at the baby-led positioning. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to maybe go and have a look in the mirror and just see where your breasts normally hang, preferably without a bra or any support or anything like that. Just see where they are. Because the direction of your breasts and your nipples is going to kind of explain to you the best direction to approach from. So, for example, if you've got fairly small breasts with nipples which are pointing quite far forward, then coming across the body in a cross-cradle position does kind of make sense, doesn't it? If your nipples are a little bit more pointy to the side, though, can you see that this might be a little bit more tricky? And if, like a lot of us, you're not only out to the side, but you're quite down towards your body as well, coming across the body like this really doesn't make an awful lot of sense. We need to work with the geography, with your personal geography, and also what we've got with the baby. Next, let's think about how you would hold the baby. So we know that the baby needs to be able to tilt its head very gently and move it around a bit in order to open up the esophagus and swallow well, and also in order to free the jaw to be able to open nice and wide and move around. So what we don't want to do is have anything blocking that head movement. I know, the first thing we're taught about babies is protect the head, isn't it? I want you to almost forget about that a little bit for the purposes of feeding. What we really want to protect is the neck, gives some stability to the neck and shoulders. So we can do that by having your hand in a bit of a U shape and positioning almost behind each of their ears. And that way you can see that my hand is giving that extra support at the neck area and supporting the shoulders too. Theoretically, you should be able to lift your baby up. This is a weighted doll, by the way. Theoretically, you should be able to lift your baby up like that. Though don't do it obviously with the real one. So once we've got our hands in a supported place, it's a case of just wrapping the baby around your body. And so depending on the size of your baby and the length of your arms, things might change as well. There's never any one answer to this. It's not a right or wrong. It's a bit of an experimental process. But sometimes it can be quite helpful to almost get the baby on top of your arm so that some of that weight is on your arm and not just on these fingers here. So getting them really nicely tucked up and around your body. And then look at where your nipple is hanging. So we don't want to move the breast to where the baby is, because then as soon as you let go again, we're going to head back to where we started from. So move the baby to where your breast and nipple naturally are. That will increase the stability of the breast in the baby's mouth and make it less likely that they're going to kind of clamp on to try and keep it still for themselves. So looking at where our nipple is, we then want to position it not so that the baby can just go straight on like that, because they might end up what I call spaghetti sucking, where they kind of suck the nipple in, and we want them to get open really wide and get as much breast tissue in there as we possibly can. So to encourage that, it helps if we can have the chin leading when we latch. And what I mean by that is that the chin is going to be the first thing that contacts with the breast. before latching. So the chin contacts first, that triggers them to reach and search up, so they will naturally just tilt that head slightly further back, really open that wide mouth, and then you can help on over the top. So from this position, I'm thinking about where the nipple is. I'm almost sticking that nipple right up the baby's nose like this. It's not coming in centrally, pointing at the back of the head. It's pointing right up the nose towards the top of the head instead. So I'm positioning so it's right up there. I've got the baby's got lots of positional stability against my body. It's not flailing around in the air or with piles of blankets between us. Nice and close, chin leading, waiting for a really big, wide open mouth when it's as wide as a, as wide as a yawn, not just but really as if you can take a huge bite of apple, and then boom, bringing on quite firmly, possibly more firmly than you might imagine sometimes. I would definitely encourage you to keep pretty still until the milk starts flowing, just to let the baby relax into that feed. I think sometimes if you move about too much and start swapping arms and things like that too quickly, that can move the breast in the baby's mouth. So wait until the feed is nice and going, you've got those big long gulps going, and then you can think about maybe giving some extra support. I know some people do kind of swap arms a bit or relax back in their chair, that sort of thing. Once the milk has started flowing, just have a quick look and see whether you can see those big gulps. We want to swallow at least every other suck once the milk starts to flow, and we want that, for a good length of time. And also have a think about yourself. Are you comfortable? So can you feel any pinching or anything like that? How are your shoulders feeling? You can make micro adjustments once the baby is latched, just to get yourself a little bit more comfortable, so that it's sustainable for the whole feed. At the end of the feed, when baby is nice and floppy and sleepy and just drops off the breast themselves, have a quick look at your nipple. Just make sure that it doesn't look like it's been getting squashed or pinched or anything like that. If it has, then maybe consider trying a different approach, a slightly different angle or a different position. Sometimes that pinching isn't a sign of a problem because it's not causing any pain for mum, and baby is seeming to get on really well and is putting on weight and is happy and contented, but ideally we don't really want that to happen at all. So that was cross cradle position. It's one that I see used really commonly. And I think partly because that's what we see in pictures quite a lot is that sort of position, isn't it? I think because it's what we see quite a lot in pictures, so it's the image that we have in our heads. It does work for some people really, really well, particularly as baby gets a bit older, that kind of thing. Remember, you don't have to use the same position for every single feed. Adjust it depending on how you feel, whether it's a sleepy feed, a lively feed. If you're at home, if you're out, you might want to use a different position and a different approach. If you're struggling with the cross cradle, you are not alone. As I said at the beginning, it's one that's really tricky, can be really tricky to get right. So if you are struggling, get some face-to-face support with it, see if you can optimize it that way. And also consider maybe having a look at a baby-led approach.